1-inch Emperor Kun? Xiao Yan whispered. Just as he was about to ask, Yin Juxuan, who was caught, trembled and said in a trembling voice. Yes, I remember now. It was the sovereign King Kun who woke us up. Where did he wake up from? Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan immediately spoke in a deep voice. Cold sweat trickled down his back. Even the Star Sky Tablet's tone was unprecedentedly solemn. Just how terrifying was the strength of this sovereign King Kun? I don't know. Yin Juxuan was like a frosted eggplant. He lowered his head and spoke in a hoarse voice. The monarch flame continuously invaded his body and quickly destroyed all the life force in his body. There was no way for him to escape. Seeing this, Xiao Yan could only helplessly shake his head. It was not realistic to know about the 9 disciples from ordinary soul demons. As for other things, he could not get any valuable information. Kai, the monarch flame in his palm swept across. Yin Juxuan had already turned into a cluster of charred dust before he could let out a miserable cry. This time around, he did not allow the soul demon within his body to escape. The Star Domain Guardian has sensed the aura of the Star Sky Tablet. It will definitely search for it like a madman. Perhaps it will find me sooner or later. At that time, I hope that this fellow will keep his word. After killing the soul demon, Xiao Yan suddenly sighed. He felt inexplicably irritated in his heart. The soul demon in the star domain was arrogant to such an extent. No one knew how crazy the battle domain that the 9 disciples were in had become. Xiao Yan turned his head and looked in the direction of the capital of chaos. He pondered for a moment, then shook his head helplessly. He looked at the unconscious Yin Kang and frowned. He walked forward. This guy had already lost an arm. If he left him behind, he would become food in the heavenly beast's stomach sooner or later. But if he saved him, he should stay there. Yunluo Academy would never allow him to go there. Xiao Yan wasn't familiar with Yin Kang to that extent. Thinking about it carefully, there was only capital of chaos. Why don't we go to the Skyspan Trading Company? Yuan Tongtian is such a powerful force. It doesn't matter if we have one more person. Thinking about it, Xiao Yan lifted Yin Kang up. He used the monarch flame to burn away the necrotic muscles on Yin Kang's arm to maintain the circulation of his blood. After that, he soared into the sky and flew towards the capital of chaos. The reason why he wanted to help Yin Kang was because of a special thought. Back in the profound Yin Castle, if it wasn't for his father, he wouldn't have known Jade Fairy from the beginning to the end, and then experienced all kinds of things in the Mingan Divine Domain. It was all because of the cause and effect. Now, Jade Fairy had become his woman. Regarding Yin Kang's cause, he had to try his best to achieve perfection. As for whether Yuan Tongtian was willing to keep Yin Kang, Xiao Yan didn't think too much about it. Businessmen only cared about profits, giving him enough. He would keep the former happily. When the latter woke up, if he insisted on leaving, it would be his own business. Arriving at the Heavenspan Trading Company once again, the matter was indeed as Xiao Yan had expected. When he heard that Yin Kang would use a portion of the Dragon Beard Azure Spirit Ginseng to make Yin Kang stay, Yuan Tongtian agreed without any hesitation. Tongtian Trading Company was a big business expert, so why would they be afraid of not being able to take care of a person who had fainted? When they woke up in the future, if he could stay, he could be considered to have a very talented and powerful subordinate. If he can't stay, then he won't suffer any losses either. Thank you, Boss Yuan. Seeing a few beautiful maids carefully carry the unconscious Yin Kang away, Xiao Yan chuckled and didn't say anything else. Yuan Tongtian was a smart man. He believed that Yuan Tongtian wouldn't betray him for such a small matter and even offend him. Brother Xiao, don't worry. I will definitely get someone to take good care of him. When he wakes up, as long as he is obedient, unless he wants to leave, no one in this Tongtian Trading Company can make him leave. Yuan Tongtian patted his chest and said in a clear voice, but he was also careful. His voice was very clear. If Yin Kang had bad intentions, he wouldn't be polite either. Boss Yuan said so. How can I be worried? Xiao Yan chuckled when he heard that. It could be considered that he had tacitly agreed to Yuan Tongtian's words. That was all he needed to do. As for what Yin Kang would do after he recovered, that would be his own business. This is the remaining Dragon Beard Azure Spirit Ginseng. The portion of Yin Kang's Dragon Beard Azure Spirit Ginseng has been taken away. As he spoke, Yuan Tongtian gave a flattering smile. He handed over the box containing the Dragon Beard Azure Spirit Ginsengs with both hands. Xiao Yan didn't even look at it and directly put it away. In the future, there might be more uses for this fellow. It would also be beneficial for them to get along well with each other in the future. That's right, brother. Do you know about the rebirth of the ancient sovereign of Heaven Divine Mountain in Mingan Divine Domain? Yuan Tongtian rubbed his hands together when he saw that Xiao Yan was about to leave. The news of the rebirth of the ancient sovereign has already spread across the entire world. No one in this world doesn't know about it. Xiao Yan glanced at the former. On the way back from Mingan Divine Domain, the topic of the rebirth of the ancient sovereign was still a long-lasting topic. Its popularity was comparable to the major movement of the Thundercloud clan in the Star Domain. A few friends of mine in Middle Domain said that the ancient sovereign had aroused the hostility of the three dynasties after he entered the Middle Domain. The three dynasties were afraid that the ancient sovereign would harm them, so they had formed a line and gathered countless experts. However, the ancient sovereign stopped at Taiyang Mountain in Middle Domain. It has been so long, but he has yet to take a step forward. Yuan Tongtian smiled embarrassedly and continued, countless experts want to pay their respects to the ancient sovereign. The ancient sovereign has set up the spatial law at the foot of Taiyang Mountain. No one is allowed to enter, which has aroused the suspicion of many people in the world. The revival of the ancient sovereign will certainly require the restoration of one's original strength. Taiyang Mountain is a sacred mountain in Middle Domain, and it is also the place where ancient dynasty was founded. There is nothing strange about where he is. Xiao Yan furrowed his brows. When he was in Chongming Hall, he had discussed this with Grandma Shi and had a vague understanding of the ancient dynasty. Now, he couldn't help but feel surprised when he heard about it. This is the truth. Many people have analyzed it this way. However, the strange thing is that ever since the ancient sovereign stepped into Taiyang Mountain, the three empires have become quiet. It seems like they are no longer hostile to each other. Yuan Tongtian shook his head and sighed. He was a businessman and had business dealings with Middle Domain. The three empires' actions were not a good thing for him, who was used to making money in troubled times. What's so strange about that? With a great enemy in front of us, who would scheme against us? Xiao Yan shrugged his shoulders and ignored Yuan Tongtian's sigh. He left with mixed emotions in his heart. How powerful was the ancient sovereign that caused the chaotic battle between the three dynasties to get rid of their past grudges and warm each other up? It seemed like he was stronger than the protectors of each region. Perhaps. The Emperor Kun is in Middle Domain. Just as he left the trading company, the Star Sky Tablet suddenly spoke. The words that came out of his mouth caused Xiao Yan to be startled. His body became unstable and he almost fell to the ground. How is this possible? There are countless experts in the Middle Domain, and their luck is boundless. How would the 9 disciples dare to go there? Xiao Yan mumbled to himself. As the center of the great world, the overall strength of the Middle Domain was far from what the Mingan Divine Domain and the Star Domain could compare with. If the 9 disciples wanted to come out again, the chaotic and murderous Battle Domain would be the best choice. Choosing the Middle Domain, wasn't this courting death? Then, who do you think the ancient sovereign is staring at in the Middle Domain? The Star Sky Tablet smiled disdainfully and said coldly, 1 inch is the ancient emperor staring at the Emperor Kun? Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan raised his brows and was slightly stunned. This made some sense, and it also explained why the ancient sovereign stopped at the Middle Domain's Taiyang Mountain. With the ancient sovereign restraining the Emperor Kun, the latter probably won't make any moves in a short period of time. This fellow is full of tricks. I'm afraid that the other 9 disciples also know about the existence of the Emperor Kun. It must be the Emperor Kun's idea to hide in the Battle Domain. Pausing, the Star Sky Tablet sighed and said, I don't know how long it will take for me to recover my full strength. I hope that there won't be any big trouble during this period of time. Xiao Yan fell silent. This level of competition was obviously not something he could understand, but it was something that even the ancient sovereign feared. This 9th disciple called Di Kun was not comparable to Yuv Mu. It was likely that he would possess the strength of his peak when he just recovered. As he was lost in his thoughts, a boundless forest soon appeared in front of him. In the depths of the forest, the Yunluo Academy was situated within. Now that he had stepped into the Yunluo Academy, he didn't want to be as fearful as the first time he had come here. Xiao Yan looked at the countless buildings that were faintly visible in the forest and couldn't help but feel excited. After leaving for nearly 2 years, he naturally had a different feeling when he returned. Xuan Kai Lin, Father, Uncle Zhu and many other elders are still fine. Xiao Yan parted his mouth and smiled. He strode forward and in a few breaths' time, he had already traversed dozens of miles. The courtyard protecting formation of the outer courtyard of the Yunluo Academy had already appeared in front of him. Swoosh! He took out the command token of a student from the realm in Valley. A wave of purple light flashed. A door rose from the great formation in front of him. Xiao Yan's body flashed and turned into a ray of light as he rushed towards the inner court. Within the main hall where many elders lived, Su Ziyang looked at the young man at the bottom of the hall and said with a sigh, "The Green Lotus Sword Sect is indeed a sect that has been passed down from the ancient times. It's really shameful for you to have such achievements in just a few years." The young man had sword-shaped eyebrows and starry eyes. His black hair was draped over his shoulders. He was wearing a white robe. Compared to when he was in the academy, he was wearing a white robe. It was even more unfathomable. Upon hearing him, Mu Yuyang chuckled and said, "Elder Su Changfa, you are being too serious. I have only found a way to train myself. I heard that Lin Dao has been doing well in the lifeless heavenly sect, too. Given his personality, that kind of place is the most suitable." Back then, the Thundercloud clan used the excuse that the Shao clan stole their supreme treasure, the Lightning Emperor sword, and sent many experts to hunt them down in the Star Domain. In the end, they were all killed by Lin Dao alone in the prefecture near the sect. Su Ziyang laughed. The first time he heard about this incident, he had already guessed that it was Lin Dao. After that, he received the news that it was indeed Lin Dao. Thundercloud clan has been acting arrogantly lately. Among the 4 major families, the 3 major families have adopted a strategy that allows them to do whatever they want. Shao clan is in a passive position in this war. I'm afraid that their days won't be good after suffering a heavy blow from the Thundercloud clan. Mu Yuyang pondered for a moment. Although he was in the Green Lotus Sword sect, he knew a thing or two about matters that would affect the structure of the starfield. You are wrong to think this way. Su Ziyang took a sip of tea and a smile appeared on his face. The Thundercloud clan dares to challenge the Shao clan. This means that they have the strength to fight the Shao clan. The Shao clan has been one of the 4 great families ever since the Soul Demon started wreaking havoc. No matter how strong the Thundercloud clan was, their foundation was not weak. At most, they would only be on par with the Shao clan. Under the circumstances where both sides had the same foundation, in such a long and drawn-out battle, the strength of the young generation will be determined. The younger generation? Mu Yuyang's eyes lit up when he heard this. He had already guessed what Su Ziyang meant. Between the few of you, Xiao Yi is indeed the weaker party, but compared to the young generation of Thundercloud clan, he is not much weaker. Besides that, there is more than one Xiao Yi in the Shao clan. Su Ziyang grinned. I heard that the one who stole the Thunder Emperor sword from Thundercloud City was the same person who stole the great profound strong wind thunder from the Thundercloud clan. Xiao Tianyi. Mu Yuyang nodded slightly, his eyes solemn. He had only heard of this guy before. When Black Nether Emperor had invaded the Yunluo Academy, the former had appeared for some reason. He had defeated several Emperor cultivation warriors by himself. It was truly terrifying. At that time, he had only been in the Green Lotus Sword sect for a short period of time. He hadn't even stepped into the Emperor cultivation yet, but now that he thought about it, it was still unbelievable. There is a grudge between Xiao Tianyi and the Shao clan. Let's not talk about it for now. However, Xiao Yan alone can make them fear him for the rest of their lives. Su Ziyang smiled mysteriously. He had heard about the truth about Xiao Tianyi before. The former had a strong desire to kill the Shao clan, but no matter what, Xiao Yan's strength was not inferior to Xiao Tianyi's. Xiao Yan, this bastard. Back in Star Moon Island, he was able to defeat the young geniuses of the Thundercloud clan. I don't know what level he has reached now. Mu Yuyang smiled. Even someone as proud as him had to admit that Xiao Yan, who was at the same level as him, was far superior to him. Guess who came? Su Ziyang was about to say something when his eyebrows suddenly raised. Then, a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. Who? Mu Yuyang was stunned for a moment and said subconsciously. In Realm and Valley, he had no idea about what was happening outside. Elder Su, long time no see. Senior Mu, I didn't expect you to be here as well. I really didn't expect you to be here. As soon as Mu Yuyang finished speaking, a clear voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this familiar voice, Mu Yuyang's face was filled with joy. He stood up and looked in the direction of the palace door. Almost at the same time he stood up, the door of the palace suddenly opened and Xiao Yan walked in. I was just talking about you when you came. Su Ziyang stood up with a smile on his face, concealing the excitement in his heart. Almost on the same day, the two great saint rank trial participants of Yunluo Academy had returned. It was undoubtedly a joyous occasion. I met Elder Wu in the inner courtyard and told him about Senior Wu Shaoqi. I didn't see Xuan and Kai Lin at Wu Tan Peak. I thought that it was here. Xiao Yan went forward and gave Mu Yuyang a bear hug. It had been so long since they last saw each other, so excitement was unavoidable. What a coincidence. They entered illusory spirit space with Mu Yiyue a few days ago. They might need a few more days to come out. Su Ziyang grinned. He found it funny. This guy ran back excitedly, but he could only wait. It's good to wait a few days. I need to stay in the academy for a few days. Xiao Yan shrugged and looked at Mu Yuyang. How long do you plan to stay when you come back this time? I can't stay for long. Weilan only gave me a month's time. On the way back and forth, I will have to delay a lot. Mu Yuyang said with a bitter smile. Weilan? Tang Weilan? Xiao Yan was stunned for a moment, then he patted the former's shoulder and said with a smile, Senior Mu is really proud of himself. When he went to the Green Lotus Sword sect, not only did his strength increase, he even had a beauty in his arms. It really makes people envious. He had seen Tang Weilan before. She had a graceful bearing, and a beauty that could topple cities. Anyone who saw her would secretly praise her. It's just a coincidence. Your two wives are also outstanding beauties. It should be other people who are envious of you. Mu Yuyang blushed. When he was with Tang Weilan, he had said that he was used to it. This time, he said it out loud, which made him feel embarrassed. This guy is really capable, to be able to get the sect master of the sect. It's not a waste for him to have such a beautiful face. The Xiaoao chuckled and didn't care about Fearless. Xiao Yan couldn't help but laugh when he heard it. What about you? You went to Mingan Divine Domain and your strength increased by a lot. Mu Yuyang coughed lightly and his expression returned to normal. His eyes were filled with a burning desire as he looked at Xiao Yan. 0 inches. I'm afraid that the monarch skill Senior Mu came into contact with in the Green Lotus Sword sect isn't an ordinary item. Xiao Yan narrowed his eyes and smiled. Since Mu Yuyang and Tang Weilan were together, he would definitely come into contact with all kinds of top-secret monarch skill in the Green Lotus Sword sect. The potential of the people in the future would surely increase by leaps and bounds. The inheritance of Green Lotus Sword sect is ancient. The strength of Senior Li Taixuan has made me admire him. I have only learned a superficial part of what he has passed down. Mu Yuyang shrugged his shoulders and did not hide anything. Li Taixuan was also a mighty figure in the ancient era. His life was even longer than the era of the ancient war. It was said that he lived in the same era as the ancient dynasty. It must be said that it was a great fortune for this inheritance to be passed down. By the way, Xiao Yan, there is a place in the Green Lotus Sword sect that you might be interested in. Mu Yuyang changed his tone and looked at Xiao Yan with a mysterious expression. Where? Xiao Yan couldn't help but ask. Could it be that there were monarch flames hidden somewhere that he was interested in? You can talk about it after you win. As he spoke, Mu Yuyang grinned. The battle intent in his eyes surged. A trace of majestic qi was unleashed and retracted, causing the entire hall to tremble slightly. All right. Upon hearing this, Xiao Yan let out a bright smile and agreed to it. The battle between the two saint rank trial participants is quite interesting. Why don't you two wait for a few days? The inner courtyard competition will be here in 5 days. At that time, show your strength in front of all the students, and let those kids see the strength of the strong. Su Ziyang suddenly spoke with interest. He was also curious about the strength of these two men. Since the two of them wanted to have a fight, it would be better for the situation to become bigger. It would be best if some of the people in Capital of Chaos knew about this. He wanted to show them that not only did Black Nether Emperor's invasion not cause the Yunluo Academy to be unable to recover, it also increased the strength of the two men by a lot. Let Elder Su arrange it. This can also be considered as a warning to the Thundercloud clan. Xiao Yan glanced at Mu Yuyang. When he saw the latter nod his head slightly, he said in a deep voice. Back then, he and Xiao Tianyi were forced to flee from the Thundercloud city. Now that he had returned, he could tell the people of the Thundercloud clan that he was able to wreak havoc in the Thundercloud city. Now, he had the strength to do so. All right, I'll send someone to make the arrangements right away. Su Ziyang couldn't help but smile. He clapped his hands and smiled. After Xiao Yan and the others left, the Yunluo Academy had indeed lacked some decisive students in the past 2 years. Even though Mu Yiyue, Xiao Xuan and Kai Lin were getting stronger and stronger, the talent of being a commander like Mu Yuyang didn't show up in these few people. This time, it was the right time to announce the strength of the Yunluo Academy to the public. After that, the three of them chatted about wine. They hadn't seen each other for nearly 2 years, so naturally, they kept talking about things. The reborn ancient emperor, the Thundercloud clan, and the awakening of the 9 disciples of the Mingan divine domain were all serious topics. Speaking of Grandma Shi's identity, Mu Yuyang and Su Ziyang were both stunned. After that, they sighed with emotion. Wu Shaoqi had obtained Flame Lord's inheritance, and Grandma Shi was the descendant of the Bird of Light. It was really hard to figure out what kind of fate this was. The Green Lotus Sword sect is closer to the Sang clan. I have a deep understanding of their strength over the past 2 years. Mu Yuyang shook his head with a smile. Sang Yu's name could even be compared to the patriarch of the Sang clan. He had also learned some information about this rare tyrant heavenly king body from the mouths of many of the Sang clan's people. This guy was simply a genius in martial arts. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was born to fight. His terrifying talent was close to a demon. When he was 13 years old, he went to Battle Domain alone. In a place filled with killing intent, a young man had killed his way out of the blood-stained path and earned the title of Overlord. At the age of 16, Sang Yu had returned to the Sang clan. At that time, he had just broken through to the monarch cultivation, and his name had already spread across the world. Many people were eyeing his physique, and were secretly preparing to kill him. Sang Yu showed no signs of fear, and swaggered back. Along the way, he had killed at least dozens of monarch cultivation sovereigns. Even a true heavenly sovereign couldn't do anything to him. On the contrary, he was seriously injured. He could only watch helplessly as Sang Yu turned around and left. He has the strength to defeat a heavenly sovereign just after breaking through to the monarch cultivation? Xiao Yan's eyelids twitched. He couldn't help but speak. No wonder Shen Shuiwei was afraid of him. This was too heaven-defying. That's why he was born for the sake of fighting. I don't know if it's because of the exaggeration of Sang clan, but I heard that Sang Yu has been through thousands of battles since he started cultivating, and he hasn't lost a single battle. Mu Yuyang shrugged his shoulders. When he heard this for the first time, he was even more shocked. What was this? This was a sign of the path to becoming a supreme being. A monstrous genius. The corner of Xiao Yan's mouth twitched. He had no choice but to spit out these 2 words. When Sang Yu returned to the Sang clan, it was the time for him to participate in the pill competition in the Spirit Heaven Mansion. After so many years, no one knew what level this monster had reached. The Sang clan will naturally contribute their entire family's strength for him. He is the hope of the Sang clan. After saying that, Mu Yuyang sighed from the bottom of his heart. When Sang Yu returned for the first time, he had personally stepped into many powers that were on bad terms with the Sang clan. With the strength of a monarch cultivation, his means were cold and cruel. Under such an unreasonable method of killing, these major powers were completely intimidated. This had become the big news that had swept across the entire star field. However, their strength was weak at that time. So no one mentioned it. No one in Battle Domain knows the name of the king. Su Ziyang interrupted. As an elder who held real power in the academy, he had communicated with the higher-ups of the other 3 academies. Ever since the incident with Kang Feng, the Star Sky Academy had restrained themselves a lot. That was why they had learned about Sang Yu from them. King of Shang. What a domineering title. Xiao Yan sighed with emotion. He had heard about how chaotic the Battle Domain was. It was an Asura battlefield with countless powers and chaotic battles. It was a place where one could rise up in the Battle Domain and obtain this title. Sang Yu's strength was not something that could be described with words. I heard from the Great Elder that the tyrannical Heavenly King physique has been invincible throughout the ages. It will become a supreme being that dominates an era in the future. Now that the Soul Demon is in chaos, the prestige of the tyrannical Heavenly King physique will be spread across the ages, and will be revered by the future generations. Su Ziyang heaved a light sigh. His tone was filled with astonishment. The chaos of the soul demon a million years ago had created countless legends of experts that had been passed down until now, including the ancestor of Xiao Yan, Xiao Tianqing. And now, the tyrannical heavenly king physique was also walking on the path of invincibility. Su Ziyang said. After saying those words, Xiao Yan and Mu Yuyang fell silent for a long time. They also had their own pride, but now, Sang Yu was like a huge mountain pressing down on their heads, making it difficult for them to breathe. Zero in the conversation with Su Ziyang and Mu Yuyang, except for some things about the daybreak heavenly king body. Most of them were speculations about the soul demon. The 9 disciples were born one after another. They had the strength to start a war at any time. They were in this era. There was no way they could avoid it. What they could do was. The only thing they could do was to increase their strength as much as possible to deal with the upcoming war. The protectors of the various domains have been keeping this a secret from the world. If the soul demon suddenly revolts and is caught off guard, I'm afraid that the various domains will suffer heavy casualties. Mu Yuyang's tone was heavy. He also knew about the Star Domain Guardian. What's there to say about this matter? It has been a million years since the soul demon started wreaking havoc. The major families and powers who know about the strength of the soul demon have already made preparations to deal with it. On the contrary, those who don't know about the soul demon won't be able to arouse their fear even if they told them about it. Su Ziyang sighed. His analysis was very thorough. Xiao Yan nodded. If he hadn't witnessed the strength of the soul demon with his own eyes. Even if other people praised the latter's strength, they probably wouldn't let their guard down now. After a long time, Su Ziyang left. Xiao Yan and Mu Yuyang had a lot to talk about. They also talked about their own experiences in cultivation. The two of them had different cultivation methods, and at the same time, they had saved some time for the battle 5 days later. Naturally, they couldn't exchange their experiences. After that, both of them left. Mu Yuyang came back specially for Mu Yiyue, and he brought a lot of cultivation resources from the Green Lotus Sword sect. Mu Yiyue had just advanced to the Emperor cultivation a few days ago, and she already had the qualifications to graduate. These resources could help her condense origin cheese faster, and allow her to adapt to the strength of an Emperor cultivation. Xiao Yan headed to the inner courtyard and visited Jiyu Yuan, Zhu Kun and the rest. They were old monsters who had been in seclusion for dozens of hundreds of years in the lower realm. The impetuousness of young people was not reflected on them. Their strength steadily rose step by step. Their foundation was extremely solid. In less than 2 years, they had already made great progress. After conversing with the few of them, Xiao Yan returned to the heavenly peak of Realm in Valley. Over the past 2 years, most of the people from the Realm in Valley had already left. Yuan Tianmu, Su Qingwu and the rest had left the academy. They walked towards the wider world outside. Bai Yangchao, who had entered Realm in Valley with Xiao Yan. He had also become a senior disciple of the Realm in Valley. However, the few girls represented by Mu Yiyue were just too powerful. He could only helplessly stay at the 4th place in the Realm in Valley. Xuan and Kai Lin would need a few more days to come out of the illusory spirit space, and Xiao Yan would not be idle like this. His main purpose of returning to the Yunluo Academy was to refine the body of the Blood Eye in the Wu Yin Meridian. Now that he had all the materials, he needed sufficient time. No one knew how much time it would take to refine a body for an existence with terrifying strength when he was still alive. Xiao Yan couldn't afford to wait any longer. 5 months later, it would be the pill competition of the Star Domain. If he didn't take advantage of this period of time to settle this matter, he would really have no more time in the future. That old thing gave me 5 years to collect all the materials. As for the body, he didn't have any specific requirements. It's just a monarch cultivation body. I don't care if it's useful or not. Xiao Yan coldly harumphed and took out his dragon soul bone. The space in front of him slowly cracked open. Xiao Yan was already familiar with this. When the crack was big enough to fit him in, he stepped into it and disappeared into the darkness. Xiao Yan could recognize the location of the Wu Yin Meridian even in this dusky space. Without needing the Xiaoao's reminder, he flew towards the direction with all his strength. That old fellow had left behind some kind of blood origin seed in his mind. Although Xiao Yan was confident that he would be able to forcefully eliminate it when he became stronger in the future. However, it seemed to be a hidden danger at the moment. What if this old man had some bad intentions towards him? That would mean that he had put his life in someone else's hands. Given his character, he absolutely could not let such a thing happen. Along the way, he would occasionally encounter a few monsters, but Xiao Yan's fists would blast them into ashes wherever he passed. With his current strength, he naturally didn't need to be extra careful when entering the Wu Yin Meridian. With his high spirits, he directly charged into it. In the valley of the Shaman Yin Meridian, the sea of blood was as calm as water. Xiao Yan surveyed his surroundings and easily discovered traces of people having been there before. Some of the traces of fighting could be clearly seen. Clearly, it was students from other academies who had entered to fight with monsters here. Taking a deep breath, the flame surged into his palm. The four-colored flame was extremely dazzling in the dusky space. Xiao Yan moved forward and squatted down to extend his palm into the sea of blood. In the next moment, the sea of blood suddenly roared. Like an overturned wave, a shocking blood chi soared into the sky. It directly condensed into a huge blood eye above the valley. Endless blood flowed in the blood eye, giving people a feeling of fear. Good kid. Staring intently at Xiao Yan, after a long time, a pleasantly surprised sigh sounded out from the blood eye. Following which, it excitedly said, "You have collected all the items. Quickly start refining." Xiao Yan's expression was calm. He pursed his lips and said, "All the materials have been gathered. However, you can make do with this body." After saying that, Xiao Yan waved his hand and a well-preserved corpse appeared on the ground beside him. This corpse was a monarch cultivation sovereign when he was still alive. When he was still in the Chongming Hall, he had attacked together with Shi Na and Wu Shaoqi. He had killed a few people who harbored ill intentions towards the Chongming Hall and chose one of the better corpses. Monarch cultivation. After a long time, a long sigh came from the blood eye. It was a silent acceptance. It was not easy for him to find this opportunity. No matter what, he didn't want to wait any longer. Although the body of the monarch cultivation sovereign wasn't perfect, it was much better compared to the body of an emperor cultivation. "All right, help me refine my body, and I'll remove the blood source seed for you." An excited voice was heard from the blood eye. The suffering of 1,000,000 years in prison had driven him crazy. "In a few more days, I still have some matters to attend to. I don't know how much time it will take to refine your body. Furthermore, I just came back from Mingan Divine Domain, so I will rest for a few days." Xiao Yan nodded and said, All right. The sound of breathing came from the blood eye, and then he said, "You have gone to Mingan Divine Domain. How is it? Did you go to the Heaven Divine Mountain? That place is very strange. I went there, and I even saw the rebirth of an ancient emperor from the ancient dynasty of the Middle Domain." Xiao Yan grinned and looked at the blood eye. The latter was the supreme saint from 1,000,000 years ago. He had never heard of the name of the Yin-Yang Saint Master. However, he might know a thing or two about the ancient sovereign. He also wanted to ask about the Star Sky Tablet, but this guy was lying in the fire source, ignoring him. This made Xiao Yan feel depressed. "Ah, ancient sovereign?" Hearing this, a shocked voice came from the bloody eye, as if it had choked on something. It took a long time for it to stutter out. In the southernmost part of the Mingan Divine Domain, a 9th disciple named Kai broke through the seal and was rescued by the other 9 disciples. Xiao Yan continued to speak, and the words that came out of his mouth caused Blood Eye to be at a loss for words. "The current ancient sovereign has entered the Middle Domain's Taiyang Mountain and is staring at Btth2. Another explosive news came out. The blood in the blood eye was boiling, as if it was going to explode at any moment. "Little thing, hurry up and refine a body for me. I want to leave this place immediately. I beg of you, please, I'm begging you. After refining it, I'll get rid of the blood essence seed for you. I'll also tell you how to get to the center of illusory spirit space. How about it?" All of a sudden, the blood eye seemed to have thought of something. It begged with a hint of anxiousness in its tone. Ever since Xiao Yan had interacted with the existence of the blood eye, the latter always had a high and mighty appearance. It was as if the latter was unaware of his current situation. Even if Xiao Yan were to refine a body for him, he would still use a commanding tone. This time, he actually used a rare pleading tone when he heard the ancient sovereign's words. "I said, don't be anxious. I will refine it for you in 5 days." Xiao Yan pondered for a moment and rubbed his nose. His curiosity was piqued. Judging from the reaction of the blood eye, it seemed like it knew the ancient sovereign. You know the ancient sovereign? After hesitating for a moment, Xiao Yan couldn't help but ask. This guy had experienced the era when the soul demon wreaked havoc. Perhaps he had witnessed the collapse of the ancient dynasty. The blood eye didn't seem to hear him. In its huge eyes, endless waves of blood were surging. It was deep in thought and didn't speak. After waiting for a long time, it saw that the former still didn't speak. Xiao Yan raised his voice and asked again. I don't know. This time, the blood eye finally let out a hoarse voice. The surging blood waves shocked everyone. In that case, I am quite curious. Since you don't know the ancient emperor, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Why are you begging me? Don't tell me you're going to find the Emperor Kun to facilitate the cooperation between the Nether Domain and the Soul Demon? At the end of his words, Xiao Yan's expression sank, and his tone was quite unpleasant. He had never had a good impression of this fellow, and refining a body for him was something he had no choice but to do. If this fellow really had this kind of intention, then he had no choice but to carefully consider whether or not he should refine a body for him. Nonsense! An exasperated voice sounded from within the blood eye. How could I possibly go and find that bastard? If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have been trapped here in the dark. Oh! Hearing this, Xiao Yan's expression eased up, and then he said with great interest, Tell me about it. 1,000,000 years ago, the chaos of the soul demons swept through the great world. Originally, although this kind of disaster was terrifying, only 5 out of the 9 disciples had awakened. Many of the seniors of the great world had come out of seclusion and joined forces. They weren't afraid of the soul demon, and the situation was even one-sided. But later on, an idiot actually released the other 4 ninth disciples. As he spoke, the voice of the blood eye became deep. It was obvious that it was filled with fury. Xiao Yan raised his eyelids when he heard this. The idiot mentioned by the blood eye was most likely Zhou Tinling. This fellow was bold as well. After that, the 9 disciples turned the world upside down. After forcing the various regions into a desperate situation, the geniuses of the various regions would not just sit and wait for death. They also caused the 9 disciples to suffer unimaginable injuries. Originally, our nether domain was watching the fierce battle from the sidelines. We thought that after a life and death battle between the great world and the 9 disciples, we would be able to reap the benefits. However, after that, the situation changed. The numerous domain lords didn't hesitate to sacrifice themselves, and the 9 disciples were sealed one after another. When Btth2 saw that the situation was not good, he came to the nether domain. He didn't know what to say, but the domain lord of nether domain agreed. Lead the army of nether domain and join forces with the soul demon. You know what happened after that. As you wish, the justice that you have been talking about will be won. Later on, during the battle in illusory spirit space, that bastard Btth2 used us as bait. Countless ancient experts had fallen, and Nether Imperial Consort had also been suppressed and had no idea where to go. The army of Nether Domain suffered heavy losses, and that was why Btth2 escaped. What a joke. We, the old fogies who thought we were old, actually fell into his trap. That guy is truly terrifying. The blood eye could not help but let out a sigh after saying this. As the leader of the 9 disciples, Btth2's strength was not only unimaginable, but he was also extremely cunning. He was even toying with everyone in his palm. What a pity, making your nether domain look like a victim. Xiao Yan snorted coldly. He didn't care about the sadness in the blood-red eye's tone, but he was shocked by Btth2's means. How many ancient experts' corpses were there in the illusory spirit space? The mountain-sized giant axe and the mountain-like giant dragon had all fallen under the latter scheme. No wonder Btth2 had the strength of his peak the moment he woke up. This fellow was likely to disappear after seeing that the other 9 disciples had been suppressed. Hopefully, he would rise again in the future. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan felt a chill run down his spine. 1,000,000 years of planning? This was simply terrifying. Several 100,000 years ago, it was the era of Yin-Yang Holy Lords. Could it be that even this supreme being who dominated an era had not discovered the Emperor Kun's scheme? That can't be right. The soul demon has invaded the great world. Why can the nether domain be independent? And they want to reap the benefits of the war? After calming down, Xiao Yan looked at the blood eye and said in a cold voice. Nether domain naturally has something that they are afraid of. Upon hearing this, the blood eye spoke in a flat tone without giving any explanation. Is it possible for the 9 disciples to be afraid? Xiao Yan was shocked and stunned. Someone who could scare the 9th disciple? The nether domain was so powerful, but it actually had so many sacred items in one go? Impossible. If the nether domain is so powerful, we can conquer the great world without waiting for the soul demon to come to us. Without waiting for Xiao Yan to speak, the Xiaoao sneered and said. Xiao Yan nodded slightly. He would never believe that the nether domain had a few sacred items. Even the newly restored Star Sky Tablet was confident that it could stop the Supreme Saint Guardian of the Heavens, let alone the intact sacred item. If that was really the case, he wouldn't need to play around with the other domains anymore. He would just follow the nether domain. Do you know about the Sacred Hall in the north region of the nether domain? Xiao Yan spoke as if nothing had happened. His eyes were lowered, making it impossible to see what he was thinking. The Sacred Hall of the north region? Hearing this, a light sound of surprise came from his bloody eyes. Then, he laughed lightly and said, I've fallen for 1,000,000 years. These fancy things should have been created later on. If it's something from the ancient times, I still know a little about it, but I don't know anything about what happened later on. Xiao Yan nodded his head. What the bloody eye said made sense. If he wanted to find out who killed his teacher, he would have to make a trip to the nether domain himself. He now had the ability to refine a body for the blood eye. Theoretically speaking, he could also revive Elder Yi, but his soul power had yet to reach the level of the ancient mirror. Secondly, he did not have a suitable body to accommodate his teacher's remaining consciousness. He could not act as casually as he did to the blood eye. At least, he needed to use a heavenly sovereign corpse. All right, I will come in 5 days to refine a body for you. He shook his head. Xiao Yan kept the corpse on the ground. Without looking back, he left. All right, ha 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 ha. A wild laughter came from the blood eye. Then, the huge eyes split open and turned into endless blood that poured down, forming a sea of blood once again. After leaving the illusory spirit space, Xiao Yan stood on the heavenly peak and gazed at the scenery of the realm in valley. Compared to 2 years ago, the changes in this place weren't too big. The only difference was that things were different from humans. Regarding Jade Fairy's matter, just tell me honestly. After a while, Xiao Yan helplessly sighed and smiled bitterly. He seemed to be able to imagine Kai Lin and Xuan Er's angry eyes. But this matter was not something he took the initiative to do. Since it had already happened and Jade Fairy was already his woman, he could not just ignore it.